Flint. Okay, we've seen that work. And the Suyo.
I think you go Leomord. Do we run it back and you go Leomord or Fredrin? One of those two?
To combo it with the rest of the members, I think if they're going for rundown, Leomord is an option. But if they're playing around either Super Marco or even Haji, then maybe the Fredrin could just make room for that.
Yeah.
So it depends on the kind of approach they want.
Yeah, the problem is if they go Fredrin, might be too slow. Unless Falcons are going to show up a new surprise pick here. Unless there's a jungle that we're forgetting in physical.
I mean, Aurora did pull off a Lucas, but it didn't work. So who knows what options could be.
Mark this. Well, what's it going to be?
What else showed up recently? Okay.
Okay, they're still going to go for the Harley. High magic base.
Yeah.
And this didn't go okay, the second round didn't go as expected as I did. I thought Falcons might go for something a little bit more surprising in the jungle.
Yangon Galacticos could secure their slot in the grand finals and finally put the rivalry to bed, or Falcons could claw their way into a clincher that goes all the way. Welcome to game number 4 in this best of 5, our first semifinals for the day. And just like that, with red 5, Falcons securing the Harley. Even the whole jungle matchup was left in contention.
And it worked out so well for them, because the thing is even if YG doesn't go for the Suyo, Falcons can pick up the Suyo in response. They had him in this rock, paper, scissors match where Falcons always got to see what YG picked first. And when Suyo and Harley were the 2 picks to go, Harley normally got the win over it.
That's right.
Harley normally got the dub in that matchup.
For about 4 to 6 weeks, Harley was the best jungler in the game when it came to MLBB esports. And this is not to say Yangon can't win with the Suyo. They already have in the knockout stage of MSC. But looking at the rotations, again, I'm not so sure if you agree with me, but it's evident that Yangon are playing a little more cautious. It's a very similar pace to game number 3.
Falcons also, though, because if we get to this 2-minute mark, Sanji and Super Marco always just going toe-to-toe down here. If we get to this 2 or 3 minute mark and it's still 0 deaths, we have to admit that also Falcons taking a slower pace, because even game 2, game 3, Falcons were the aggressors. Ooh. Kyle on the bot side looking for a possible target, does have level 4, going to decide to go for this crab instead. Turtle comes up in 5 seconds. Kyle might be a little late to the party.
All right, the expanding rivers will allow him to double time and make it there. Flap and Ogwin able to draw a line between Blink and the Turtle. Flap on this Esmeralda 2 games back-to-back is feeling like a force of nature.
Han is going to start off this Turtle. Kyle gets the deadly magic, or doesn't actually use it quite yet, but they're still able to put a lot of damage on a Blink. Haji in the backside with the Crimson Beacon, and down goes Han. Han's not going to be able to survive this one. First blood into the hands of Hanji. Kai's now forced to use the Flicker, as YG watch Falcons take Turtle number 1.
That is mid-prio up Wazoo. As if inherited from their ancestors, Falcons just take the Turtle and own the early rotations. As a Uranus, you kind of can't help but feel miserable. This is something that Ying has to take from game number 3 all the way to game number 4 and say, I can do better. But he's not given the atmosphere to do as such. The mount on the Sanji. In comes Marco.
And he's in a lot of trouble. Han's going to try to come in to help out. A lot of damage on Ogwin. Ogwin won't be able to get away. CC immune on to Super Marco. Will be able to, in fact, get back safely under the tower. But a nice pickup for YG.
Massive clap back. They force Ogwin to take a dirt nap there. Patrick Star just out the bush. This is interesting. Grand Theft Purple committed. Kyle takes it.
It's 2 games in a row now that purple buff hasn't been Falcons, but look at the damage. Flap able to safely get onto the tower. Now they're responding back. Haji gets a pullback on to Ying. Ying should be okay. He doesn't have the consecration and opted for a flicker instead of the purify.
So that's multiple ways that members of Yangon Galacticos could get ragdolled out of their formation. The Lantern Flare, the Crab Grab, and the Mount. This is how you break down the Burmese Ube. The Yangon Yam. So far, game 3, we saw none of it. And I think Falcons have figured it out. Again, it may have taken them 2 losses straight, but what else is left in the bag for Yangon? Like, that's the question. They're in the driver's seat. Falcons are forcing Yangon to respond.
I mean, I think it's definitely when you have something like... Wait a second. Honey. Does get vision on a Kyle. Falcons repeatedly for multiple games of some 4 members down to the gold lane in faith of Flat.
Oh my
top
Lord.
side, look at the damage onto Sanji. Black Magic may be able to finish him off. No, he gets the health back just in time. Haji, though, doesn't want to let it end like that. Falcons finally decide to opt back Super Marco. Is he going to let him recall?
Ooh, the BMI.
Oh, coming in! The dive under the tower. Sanji, though, still standing, still alive. Gets grabbed, mounted, and thrown into the ground.
That was a long-term exchange as Flap tries to use a damage reduction into the base, and the turret will not save him. Flap falls, Han scores.
The punches are finally flying. Han won't be able to get away from this. Has a sliver of health, actually does safely. Falcon under the tower, only lose Flap. Turtle's up, though.
That's a technical knockout. Unless Han will tread the needle, he's gonna live on the edge. That is a flare on the Ying. In comes Blink.
Blink looking for the grab, doesn't use the Fatal Links. Kyle goes down, Ogwin taking a lot of damage, Kai's is there. Eudora finally starting to put out some damage, but the thing is it's not constant damage. It's not like the Jushin. You get one big attack, and then you're just there.
On a spectrum of damage and utility, that's where Haji Zushin comes through. But you gotta consider, Kaiser was in the perfect spot at the perfect time. It was Kyle he needed to burst down. So again, I think Yangon Galacticos are happy to keep this lead down to under 1,000 by picking off Kyle after the turtle. So yes, 100% so far. About 5.5 minutes in, Falcons take those turtles, but Yangon are on the map. This is a much better shape for them than they were in Game 3.
I think this is the best start of a game that we've seen for both teams in a sense. It hasn't, what I'm saying is it hasn't escaped from anybody.
I concur.
All 3 games, it's been a huge lead. A turnaround at some point for YG here and there. But overall, this is the first time we've been 6 minutes in and we're under a 2,000 gold
It
lead.
still feels like a tug of war. And the flag has not swung either way. Crimson Flare on the 1. Deadly Magics!
Blink, not going to be able to get away from this. Sanji just trying to defend, but the Blazing Duet comes in and he's stopped in his track. Han shows up in the nick of time. Kai's there as well. This could be bad for Falcons if they push too hard. They're going to dash in. Han gets a couple shots onto Kyle. Ying dashes in, past the wall. Couple shots onto Kyle as well, but Falcons only lose Ogwin.
Massive surge forward. That's what you're looking for in a Suyo that is in crunch time. So Han here, fearless as he comes in, able to find that trade. And Flat maybe a second too late, actually holds his breath and practices discipline and does not jump in with that Falling Star Moon, which again keeps them at under 1,000 up, which makes this final turtle of this game, about 7 minutes in, actually contestable. Again, neither have a sure grip.
Yeah, it is dead even right now with only a 600 gold lead. Taking a look at each member, no one extremely leading. Super Marco with a 500 gold lead, but no one's got a full item. No one's extremely ahead. Han actually beating out on Kyle right now. Blink looks for the entry. Not able to secure a stun on anybody, but Kai's on the backside getting singled out by Flap. Flap will be able to get the kill. Puts Falcon at advantage for this turtle, but Han doesn't want to give it up just yet as Ying dives in, pops Consecration, and there's the Fatal Links. A lot of damage, stacked up. Sanji trying to fight back, but it's just too much. Super Marco takes out Han as Oakland takes out Blink, and Flap finds another. Sanji left alone to watch the turtle go over to Falcons.
And now we see the folly of the burst damage profile Yangon Galacticos have oh so invested in. Kaiser taken out early, Sanji ranged out. Underneath a fight like that, sure, Sever over 2 or 3 major targets will spell vamp you to victory, but not when you have the kind of damage that Falcons almost missed on, by the way. This is an early game going into the mid-game. Claude that could have missed out, but the fact that he was able to keep himself topped up and put the damage where it matters, isolated Sanji from actually getting the payoff. Because look, 2 members of Falcons were actually within range, but they denied Sanji that space and the 2 seconds he needed to let off a few big ones. So now, Falcons skyrocket to a 4,000 gold lead in just a single objective.
1 neutral objective, 1 team fight. They had a 400 gold lead before they started.
Now times
they
10.
10 times it.
Yep.
10 times it.
Exponential, that stonks.
Great stonks for Falcon right now, working their way up. If they can win this, it goes to a game 5. YG being pushed to the limits. And Esports looking to dive in. Consecration pops from Ying once again, and they keep forcing that out as Super Marco hones in onto these off lanes.
5,000 up. Falcons is at 9 minutes. And I can tell you now that Glue and that Esmeralda are the bane of their existence. Just the fact that these two are so good at splitting up your lineup does so much for them. The knock up and the takedown, Blink falls!
And Flap is relentless, continues to push him, but look at the damage in response. Sanji able to chip him down, but they've already lost Blink, so there's no being engaged. Han tries to get a couple shots off of Super Marco! Under the tower! In the base, in enemy territory! Locks on and finds his target, and Kai's will be next to fall. Pulled back is Ying. This is the Falcons we wanted to see.
Surgical precision. Every action calculated to find its most ideal output. 10 minutes in, and they've taken mid lane tier 2. Top lane tier 2 has fallen as well. Yangon holding onto that tier 1 down bottom. That's also where the Lord spawns. I don't think they're in any shape to contest. 7,000 up, that's a whole nother tax bracket.
Yeah, and Han just keeps getting shredded. Every time he tries to dive in, there was no answer. Every time a setup looks good for YG, Falcons have the counterplay.
And now Falcons are just going to relish in the fact that Yangon are going to think twice about leaving their base. One more look at this engagement. Oh my god, it was Flap zoning out 3 alone. After maybe a hit or 2 off of that turret, and then Marco finishes what Flap started.
Monsters.
They're in a state of flow. They're in a state of flow.
Flow state, one would say.
Falcons right now are in a whole nother level. It seems like their birds out of this world. A new species was discovered 4 games into this best of 5. Lord marching through mid. A pensive state is the other half of our stadium here, as suddenly the table has turned. Now it's Yangon who are struggling to find an answer through. I mean, you can find it through a massive fatal links, but not while the Lord is knocking on your base like this.
Blink's looking for it, but hasn't been able to catch it. Goes in, 3-man! Pulls him in! Ogwin flickers back, but Blink goes down. Super Marco's untouched. He's unscathed. And YG just can't find a member, a Falcon to take down. Flap with a falling Star Moon into the tower, trying to open up space. Kyle there as well. Ying and Han looking for an engage that never existed. And in comes Super Marco under the base once again with the blazing duet. He might not take a member, but the inhibitor drops and Falcons are looking for more.
Even Ying has to retreat underneath all the lead Marco's throwing out. And even Sanji's bullets don't hurt as much as he'd hoped to. Falcons are now up about 11,000 gold, denying even orange buffs at small camps away from Han. He's starving, just built up his Queen's Wings, which is, again, something he needs. He needs maybe a second or 2 more underneath all that. But being 2,000 behind a little magical boy, such as Kyle's Harley, a minute before the Lord, might be a replay of game number 3, I'll tell you now.
It's definitely looking rough for YG. The goal on that first Lord when you're behind like this is to try to not lose any inhibitors, let alone 2. It's going to make the second push that much harder to defend. When you're behind this far, the goal is get to 3rd Lord. Get to 3rd Lord, get to the 16-17 minute mark, and you're good.
And again, throwing back to something that was evident at the 7-minute mark, the burst damage profile that Yangon are playing with is not ideal for what Falcons are bringing in. Splitting up your lineup, pushing in hard, lane after lane. Once Kaize has drawn through with the Thunder's Wrath, once Sanji is out of bullets, that's it. Yangon have to find a way to re-engage, but which they don't have, because Blink is very all-in. So Falcons now just have to do this right. They just have to make a series of correct decisions. Time is on their side, and that will inevitably take us all the way.
Falcons Esports, and they do play it patient. They're not trying to rush it. They know their lead. They know the amount of time they have. YG, you're in a bad situation here, right? You kind of have to contest this because you're down to 1 inhibitor.
Blink!
Blink, once again, unable to find an opening. He goes in, grabs onto Flap, or Ogwin. Flap dives into the backside of Blazing Weapon. Marco once again able to lock on to 3. Blink goes down and Super Marco advances forward along with Flap and Haji. Sanji forced to use the flicker, but he's pulled back in right as he tries to escape. Falcon Esports might not even need the Lord.
Team Falcons up by 2 men. 3 defenders, none of them built to clear waves. Chubby wave coming through top, mid lane will be cleared here as the Ying gets taken down.
They gotta clear the waves. There's one more to do. It's Han and Kai's
against Falcon Esports. A wave on the top side as well. Falcons lock on, base at 50%. Han taken out. Han still up, but finally falls, and that'll be it. Falcon Esports will take us to game number 5.